when the meeting's happening.
With you in a minute because she asked me for the link and I sent
I
it to
think
her. And then
this
she
might
found it
be.
for herself.
Mac rocks.
That's
There we
good.
go.
Oh,
Hey, Scotty.
Hey there, guys. I can hear you now.
oh,
Greetings.
great.
Ken, how are you, sir?
Surviving.
I would say you're thriving.
So what happened to Scott?
I'm back, Lee. Better than ever.
Yeah, look
There
at
we
him.
go. Thank
He
you,
looks
sir.
like he's in his. He looks like he's still in his 20s.
Yeah.
Barbara,
So we're just waiting for Barbara.
Yes, I think somebody's coming in. It's Barbara. She's just been admitted
There
and
she is.
she should show up in about 30 seconds.
Okay,
Great.
great, great.
And I sent you an email on the stuff for the tree thing on Orange
Oh.
Street.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, I see Barbara's name.
there she is.
There's Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello.
Hi, Barbara. Alan, not only do we have a quorum, we have everybody in attendance, although we probably have to call the roll because this is electronic.
Okay, I call a meeting of the Nantucket Cemetery Commission to order for April 14th. I declare we have a quorum present and we'll do attendance by acknowledgement. Lee,
Here,
Fran,
Here,
Scotty,
Here.
Barbara,
Here.
and Chairman here. Yes, it's too nice a day to be in for a meeting.
Agreed.
Okay, so we are, I call the meeting to order. I declare we have a quorum present and the first item of business, any public comment or commissioner comments before we get started? Seeing none. Approval of minutes from March 10th. Any errors, omissions, anyone notice? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from May, no, March, whatever it was.
I move we accept the minutes as
March.
written.
thank
March
you,
10th.
Fran. Second,
Okay,
I'll
all in
second.
favor?
I see Barbara as second.
Okay, yes, right. All in favor? Do I need to call the roll or should I?
Yes, I'm afraid
Okay.
the meeting's being recorded.
Okay, Lee,
Aye.
Fran,
Aye.
Scotty,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Okay, so those minutes are adopted. Approval of sales, lot sales from our last meeting. We had a lot sale yesterday, lot number C2 for a Christine Ash, I believe it is, ASCHE.
I've got C12, Alan.
Yeah, C12.
I'd like to move that.
Okay.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second from Barbara to approve that lot sale.
So this is all in deep confidence, but I first met Diane when we were shopping for bookcases and I got them and she didn't.
Oh, really?
And we've known each other ever since.
I won't tell.
Turns out she's a friend of my former wife, and that's how she got my number. And so I called her, met her out at the cemetery yesterday, and we did that. Okay, roll call vote on approval of that lot C12. Lee,
Aye.
Fran,
Aye.
Barbara, Scotty,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Okay, burial plot for cremains abandoned by the town clerk. I got a call from Nancy the other day, the town clerk, and you may remember we had discussed this some time ago. Catherine had accumulated a batch of, or I should say, a number of remains, boxes of remains, ashes that she had gotten, I believe, from Lewis Funeral Home when they closed. And she had about 20 or so of them. She managed to track down all but, I believe, about half a dozen. So those ashes, or the containers with the ashes in them, are located in the vault at the town clerk's office. And the town clerk is requesting, or she was inquiring, let me put it that way, as to whether there was space in any of the town cemeteries to bury those remains, or those cremains, I should say. She does have names for all of them, but obviously she's tried to contact, and there's no other information we have other than the name that was on the package. So I'm not quite sure how we do this, but we had talked several years ago about a sort of potter's field, an area for people who didn't have the resources to purchase a funeral lot. This is a little bit different in that these are ashes that we already had. Yes, Lee?
Alan, your mention of Potter's Field, and I think Fran will remember, is that the ground penetrating radar survey of Newtown showed an accumulation of graves very close to each other in the corner by Sparks and the auto body, very, very close to that drainage pit. So it's going to depend upon how critical it is, but I think that would be a great place to, as we clean up Newtown, to make a Potter's Field. However, that could be a year or more out.
Right. No, I understand that. Apparently there's no rush because these remains have been in storage for, I believe, over 20 years. So Rob, do you have any suggestion as to the best way to handle this particular situation?
Well, what I would say is currently we have a couple projects in the general area. One is Cow Pond Lane, a drainage project, sidewalk and roadway improvement project coming down to the end of Cow Pond, coming down the walking path with a drain line, and then discharging in the buffer zone to Cow Pond to handle the drainage of that general area. And then the other project is the Complete Streets project that is Sparks Avenue from the school all the way to the Milestone Rotary. It also includes Pleasant Street to Five Corners and Williams Lane to connect the two. Right now, we have a archaeologist involved with the project because the stretch along Newtown was flagged by the Mass Historical Commission as a point of interest for investigation. So that is underway. We expect to get some feedback from those folks fairly soon. And I believe with her history of the site and on the island in general, it might be helpful to include Mary Lynn Rainey is her name, get her involved with maybe understanding a little bit more about, from her perspective, what the anomalies on the ground penetrating radar may or may not represent, and take it from there.
Rob, apologies for interrupting. You used a name and I didn't catch it.
Sure, it's Mary Lynn Rainey, and I believe it's spelled Rainey.
Right.
That's correct, yeah.
The company that she works with is called Richard Grubb, Grubb and Associates.
I did try to get up to meet her when, this was after you mentioned this, a couple of weeks ago. And we just apparently never connected while, when we weren't in the cemetery at the same time, I guess.
Okay, Rob, one more time. Mary,
Lynn, Lynn.
I'm not picking it up.
Sure,
It's
it's
2 words. It's Mary Lynn, Lynn, Rainey,
Yes. And surname?
Rainey. I'm sure I have her email address, but probably on your documentation, you have it as well.
I do. Lee, I could forward the contact info.
Yes, please. Do you think she would like a copy of the GPR report?
I've provided that to her.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, Rob.
Okay, so the question is then, how do we go about dealing with these? Let's assume that there are half a dozen packages of ashes that need to be interred or need to be put in the ground in one of our cemeteries. Currently, the only place we know we can put ashes in the ground is at Pulpis. So, all right. I guess there are 2 things we can do. Lee, you suggested that perhaps we could locate a spot up in Newtown Cemetery. The other alternative would be to allocate one of the lots in the current lots in Pulpis Cemetery, or when we lay out additional lots, which I assume will be probably in the fall sometime, we could make a special provision for a lot there.
Helen, I prefer Newtown, but I am certainly not boneheaded about this. If we go to Pulpis, we could easily put 4 cremains in a plot and not be breaking any rules. And then we could have 1 stone for all 4 with the 4 names on it.
Right.
That would leave 2 left over for the adjacent plot.
All right. Okay. Barbara?
Oh, I was just going to ask, Lee answered the question.
Oh, I see. Scotty?
Do you know all the names and do you have the dates?
The town clerk has the names, and I'm not sure if she has the dates. She may very well have the dates.
Okay. I'll just let you know that I would donate a stone, a simple flat marker for these cremains when the time comes.
Great, wonderful. All right, I'll get back to the town clerk and let her know that we are working on finding a spot for those remains. And in the meantime, we'll maybe this would be a good opportunity to pursue combining those lots at Newtown. Remember, we're still waiting for the town to consolidate those lots. Yes, Rob?
I'm curious, Alan, if the commission has had further discussions about alternatives, and if there was any instructions that came along with these cremains as far as what the either they personally had wishes for or family had wishes for. As we, look at many issues related to cemeteries and land use in general, there are many options that other cemeteries are currently imploring, including scattering areas, as well as potential deposition at sea.
Right.
So I throw those out there for discussion.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, the next step for me, I'll follow up with Nancy, with the town clerk, and see if she has any additional information about the remains. See if there are any, if any instructions were left. See if she has any dates and that sort of thing. And I'll also ask her what her time frame is. As I say, they've been in the her safe down there for the last 20 years or more. So there's no urgency for this, other than it would be, it's one of those projects that'd be nice to complete and get underway. So, All right, well, I'll put it on the next agenda then. In the meantime, I'll see what we can find out from Nancy as far as, who those people are and if there are any requests that they had that she can identify. Okay, well, give it some thought. If you have any ideas before our next meeting, we'll figure out what to do with those ashes. Again, the idea, yes, Lee?
No, I don't mean to interrupt. You finish your sentence, then it'll be my turn.
No, go ahead, Lee.
Okay, you mentioned Newtown. It's not on the agenda, but since Ken is here on the call, if we can ask Ken at the end of the meeting under new and old business, whether we have any more news about the request. It's now a several-year-old request for the select board to consolidate the 3 lots into Newtown Cemetery.
It has not moved up the agenda because there's just a lot of really heavy-duty urgent stuff that is way ahead of that. So it's on Vicky's agenda, but it is not anywhere close. It's more close to being to the bottom than it is being near the top.
Okay, Ken, is there anything we can do to raise the priority level of this, or we just sort of have to, wait? I know Vicky is busy and I understand, but we put this request in, I think it was 4 years ago.
Well, I'll follow up with John Giorgio.
Okay, as I say, basically what, before we can do anything up in Pulpis, like, new lots and that sort of thing, we need to have those, make sure that it is all within the bounds of the cemetery. Okay. Okay, cemetery surveys. Now, remember, we have 2 types of surveys we're talking about. Let's take the condition of the monument survey first. Scotty, is there any progress on that? I know you had contacted me and yeah, Rob?
Thanks, Alan. So I have been keeping Scotty abreast of the investigations. I did reach out to, again, Richard Grubb and Associates, but a different person within that group named Jason Harp with an E, Harpe. He is actually their public historian / director of cemetery conservation and has extensive experience in doing this kind of work. I've asked him to put together a proposal, and they have presented that to us. Right now, we're working through the details on this, but I can share with you that we're looking at having them survey all the cemeteries, and that includes roughly 2,500, a little over 2,500 actual memorial stones, and putting those together in a sort of a standard format, whereby which the commission would be able to understand how to proceed with a follow-up contract to correct everything from cleaning through sort of real heavy-duty reconstruction type efforts.
Right.
And that right now is at just over $40,000. So that, remember, is sort of hopefully predicated on a property or a topographic survey, which would first and foremost locate and where possible, if we had known properties or property lines. I know Newtown is one of them that the line is not necessarily known, but for all the ones that we would have property lines defined, to do that and to do all the surface features, including locations of all the monuments. And so I'm awaiting a proposal from our surveyor and engineer on that. And that's expected to be done with a drone to be able to pick that up and expeditiously move through town to get all of the cemeteries completed at the same time. So working on that, I expect to have something by the end of the month. Those folks are extremely busy right now with a lot of the efforts going on everywhere. So we'll couple the two efforts together and hopefully have contracts signed and in place by summer.
Rob,
Right.
that sounds great. This is Lee. Will the property surveys be recordable surveys?
Well, that's something that we need to look at. I would say it would make sense to me to take a look at that. To me, Lee, I think the best first step is to get the topographic level surveys done. And then from there, taking it to the next step, and I can ask them what it would take to create. I believe they would need to, I could check with Ken also, but I believe we would be looking at doing Alta style surveys for those recordable plans if necessary.
Yeah, and Rob, the reason I ask is, as Fran will help me out, the cemeteries were never set aside. They are residuals of the common and undivided lands of the town and county of Nantucket. And as a consequence, they do have corner bounds.
Right.
But as far as we could tell, they don't have a recordable survey.
Yeah, I was going to say, each of the 9 cemeteries we've located, the 4 concrete bounds or whatever, so the bounds are in place there for those. Okay, well, that's good news. We can start moving ahead with that project. And of course, the next step, once we get the survey of the condition of the monuments completed, then we can go in and start doing the actual work in repairing and restoring the monuments. And I'm sure that the people at the CPA will be glad to have have us start drawing on those funds. I believe I believe that the amount was originally $125,000 for that work. So good. Well, that's a good sign. Okay. Anything else on the cemeteries, the surveys?
Um, no, I think,
No.
nope.
Nope. Okay. All right, next item, Pulpis and Quays Monuments. Nothing new yet at Pulpis. As you know, the DPW was in, cleared the brush, and we're still back and forth with the discussion with the Hicks. We have nothing to report at this time, but we're the conversation is still ongoing, so I'll certainly keep you up to date with that. The Hicks have responded, and we'll see where that goes. As far as the Pulpis Cemetery itself, the layout of the lots, the additional lots, I believe that my assumption is that work of laying out additional lots at Pulpis can take place after the summer, sometime in the fall, perhaps would be a good time to do that. And in the meantime, we'll have to resolve, whatever we're doing with the Hicks property next door, and we'll take it from there. Now, with regard to the Quays Monument, Scotty sent out some photos of the monument at the Quays Asylum Burial Ground, and very impressive work, Scotty. I'm on.
No problem. That wasn't me engraving. That was Matt, but still.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell with the mask on.
But it's ready to go, and we can probably get it done before the next meeting.
Okay.
So what I think I'd like to do is go out there and either meet you, Alan, or somebody, and determine the actual location.
Okay, good. I was out there about a week or so ago, and I did put a stick in the ground where I thought it should be, but I'll be happy to meet you out there anytime. And maybe next time you're headed out that way, let me know and I can meet you out there.
Okay.
And then that brings, Fran had raised the question of recognition, doing some sort of a dedication for the monument. The monument really looks quite lovely. I was very impressed with the work of the monument. So we're still under meeting limits. We can't have a public event with more than 12 people. So I think we'll just have to play it by ear, Fran, and see when the the pandemic, whatever, lets up and we can have a larger group of people. And then we'll.
Would you like me to write a letter to the editor when the stone's in place to sort of announce to the public that it's there? Because Marianne will publish, she says her principle now is one letter a month per writer. And I don't anticipate writing a letter to the editor in May.
I see.
So I could write a letter on behalf of the cemetery commissioners to announce to the public that the monument is in place. And a little bit of history about it, if you'd care to have me do that.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that I don't see any problem with that at all. I think that's a great idea to let people know that we are, that there will be a monument. I think we'll get the monument in place before the article, obviously.
And another thing I think that we could do once the monument is in place and we have a picture of it in situ is I'm pretty sure I can write about the monument and its background for the NHA website with a picture.
Great.
That would be something permanently there.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
As long as I have permission to do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Grant it, Ellen, grant it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Lee, you had a comment?
I do. First is the way things are going with vaccinations. I suspect that the limit on meeting size will be relaxed fairly soon. So let's keep our eyes open.
Right. I'm not so sure about that with this new variant that's going around, but
Yeah, but we haven't been using Johnson J&J on the island.
right. Well, we'll know when it's safe. I mean,
Oh yeah, it'll be in the paper.
Roberta will let us know when it's safe to have more than 12 people together.
Okay, so this is combining two parts of my active career. For Neil Patterson and company, Scott and his colleague, our big push in the National Occupational Research Agenda for mining is on respirable crystalline silica, because there are any number of places where quartz type materials are being ground into micron sized particles, which cause diseases. And the picture, what caught my eye, Fran was looking at the inscription and I was looking at the helmet, which is the appropriate way of keeping that dust out of a worker's lungs. And so my hat's off to Scott and his colleagues. It's not going to go into the minutes, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows publicly, I'm impressed.
Yeah, we wouldn't go any other way, Lee. That's too dangerous.
Right. It's quite an operation they have out there for sure. Yes, Barbara?
Fran, when you do the letter, I think it should be a news release also to NCTV or to the radio stations as well, because they may pick up on it. And maybe they'll call you and interview you or something. I think we should do it as not just a letter, but also as a news release.
Can do that.
Great, good. Well, it's a lovely monument. Now, one of the other things we need to do is the sign, to have Ray do
I
us.
thought that was going to be done by now.
Well, all the wheels are turning very slowly. Mainly because there's so much going on, and trying to get things done via Zoom is not always the most efficient way to get things underway. But so what we need then is a sign out on pointing in Almanac Pond Road that says that one of the historic cemetery signs, like we have up at Newtown. No,
Historic colored.
Founders.
Yeah, Founders and Historic Colored. We have, simply says historic cemetery with an arrow going. Yes, Rob?
And then at least in one of the parking lots, another arrow pointing to the path.
Right.
Actually, something to indicate that this is where you should park to go to it.
Right.
Yeah, we were talking about possibly having an arrow in each of the two parking lots.
Right. I did discuss that with Cormac a while ago, and he did kind of reluctant. Well, no, he agreed to put a small sign saying cemetery with an arrow that would pick up the path from those two parking areas there.
So who makes it? Who will make the sign?
Well, I'm assuming that Ray would make them. Now, Ray did one for historic. Oh, yes. I'm sorry, Rob.
I believe that those work orders have been submitted. But I would ask Isabel to follow up for the commission for next time, just to
Yep, I'll
confirm
check
that
on
those
that.
are in the works. Yeah,
Okay, great.
as you mentioned, there's a lot going on, and it's important that we do the service request and work order system to make sure that that stuff is entered and followed up on.
Right.
Thank you.
Good. Good.
Um,
Fran?
I've noticed recently going to the historic colored cemetery that we need an arrow cemetery sign there too, because when you come in on the dirt road, there's a bifurcation where to the right, you go to Dead Horse Valley,
Mhm.
and to the left, you go downhill. And when you get down to the bottom of the hill, there's a sign saying cemetery.
Mhm.
But up there where you have to make the choice, there was honestly a shingle with the word cemetery and a yellow arrow painted on the shingle. And it has come loose and it's on the ground. Well, we need something better than a painted shingle anyway, just to tell people when they're faced at that point that they need to bear left and go downhill to the cemetery. So
Right.
one more sign.
Okay, I did notice that I've been down there a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, and that the sign that you mentioned at the top of the hill there, I thought it was one of Ray's signs that simply said cemetery down the hill, but anyway, that is gone now.
I picked it up and looked at it, and it was actually a shingle.
Shingle. Okay, well,
Alan,
all right.
I'm gonna have to excuse myself. I got something else that I've got to do, so.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Ken.
We
Right.
can add the sign request for the historic colored cemetery to the list as well at the top of the hill.
Just
Right.
a sign that says cemetery with an arrow pointing
Yeah,
left.
you're right, to give them direction to get down to the cemetery there. Okay, and by the way, the daffodils are coming along nicely down at down
look lovely.
at both Historic Colored Cemetery and at Newtown.
And in honor of our efforts, I'm wearing my daffodil shirt to this
I see.
meeting.
Great. Lee?
This is just a sightseeing comment, but yesterday Priscilla and I did the Pulpis Road, Milestone Road loop, and it is fantastic. I think it'll be even better by the weekend as the final blooms come out. So anybody who wants to make up for a lost daffodil weekend, get on your bicycle or get in your car and do the Pulpis Road, Milestone Road loop. It's fantastic.
All right. Good. So anyway, historic colored cemetery, the daffodils look great, and the fencing has been replaced also at historic colored cemetery.
Does it go around the other side by Vesper?
No, no. The three sides where there were, they're all in good shape. All the rails that needed to be replaced are replaced. Some of the posts are replaced and so on. When I was out there yesterday afternoon, remember that vegetation, because there is, the property falls off as it goes down onto land bank property and all the other daffodils that are down in the field there. So let's wait and see what the vegetation looks like when it comes back on that, along that side of it.
I would personally prefer a fence to whatever vegetation is there. But I was thinking when I was there the other day, the granite columns that we have installed by the helipad look really good. And originally we were talking about facing Vesper Lane, marking an entrance into the cemetery as well. And now, assuming that we will have a fence, assuming that we will, do we have the means to put granite columns marking the entrance through that fence as well? because what we've done is so good that I would like to see more of the same. A fence on the Vesper Lane side, and then where the mowed path comes up to the cemetery, a pair of granite columns, just like the ones at the helipad.
Right. The land bank does mow that path that goes from Vesper Lane up to that, where the break in the vegetation is,
Right.
to the cemetery. And they will continue to, to maintain that as a walk, so people can walk up that way. As far as putting additional posts there, well, let's give that some thought. Let me put it that way. Let's
I would like to strongly advocate for the cemetery to be fenced all the way around, and at the break in the fence for there to be something defining an entrance to the cemetery. Not on land bank property, but on
Right.
town cemetery, because it's otherwise so good. And that one side is scraggly, and the entrance isn't really an entrance. And I think that we kind of owe it to the place, to history, and to us as cemetery commissioners to finish a job.
Right. All right. My thought is, and I looked at it quite carefully yesterday when I was over there, is that I think because of the berm and the vegetation and so on, there is definitely a distinction, as to where the cemetery is. As far as putting additional fencing there, I was by both Old and New North this morning, and along New Lane, there are quite a few rails and things that are there. When I went by this morning, I was thinking maybe that should be, when the DPW has time and energy and resources to do that, I think that's a more highly visible place.
Well, I agree that it needs to be fixed. I've been there too, yesterday, as a matter of fact, but I don't really see that they should be in competition.
Well, it's not so much a competition, it's the availability of personnel and resources. I mean, it's not as though we can just sort of wave a flag and say, hey, let's go put in another section of fence.
Somehow I thought we had already done that.
Well, we've discussed it at some length. So, all right, we'll keep it. We'll keep the idea going forth, but let's just take a look at it as we go through the summer. As I said, I would prefer personally to have the rails at least along the Newtown, I'm sorry, not Newtown, the New Lane road for Old and New North, because it's really gotten to the point where it's noticeable how many of the rails are missing or leaning and so on. So we won't let it pass, Fran, as far as we'll keep an eye on it. And last year, I trimmed a little bit around where the entrance at the end of the path, where it goes into the cemetery there. So perhaps with just doing some trimming, we can at least get something temporary there, so it looks like an entrance into the cemetery.
But I would hope that going forward, we could do something more formal, because right now, basically what you've got is some scraggly brush and a hole. And we deserve better.
Yeah, no, I know, I understand.
And
all right.
it is quite visible from Vesper Lane is the thing.
Well, it is, of course, this time of year, it is. But all right, well, we'll keep it on the to-do list, the projects list. Speaking of which, I had a projects list and I can't. And apparently I didn't attach it to the agenda.
Oh, Helen, it
Oh,
is,
wait, yes, I did.
Yes, you
Helen,
did.
it is on the agenda.
It is, I'm sorry.
And the intriguing thing about it is, as you read down, I think we've discussed almost every item that's on the list.
Right, the cemetery, yes, I think you're right. The fencing, historic colored. Okay, good.
Oh, markers.
I can't believe I did put it on the agenda. It's was my intention. The idea of that was to get a list. So we as a commission and me personally can remember some of the, the scope of the different projects that we have going on as far as the cemetery is concerned. Okay, yeah, I don't see anything else on the list that we haven't covered yet. Split rail fence, good. So
I'd
I
like
did.
to express appreciation for the bench finally being removed.
Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to mention, that the bench at the Maya Comet burial ground has been removed. So
Thank you.
that's, again, thanks to the DPW. They took care of that over the weekend, by the way. They took care of that. So
Thank you so much.
yeah. So one thing I did notice going on to old business, I was up at Founders Burial Ground, and I was up there to check out the daffodils and that sort of thing, and generally the condition of the cemetery. I picked up the few beer cans that were in the bushes that had been there for years. I had my little grabber with me. So, but I did notice going up to Founders Burial Ground that the erosion, the road has become
Dangerous.
eroded down there. Obviously, every time it rains, once it has a channel, and because it's just dirt and so on. So that will need some attention. It is possible to get up there. A more significant thing in my mind, I did notice tracks, looked like truck tracks. Somebody had driven up into the cemetery, and I'm not sure what to do, some sort of a barrier there, but we don't want to block it off because the DPW needs to get their equipment and so on up there. So I'm trying to think of some sort of a temporary barrier. One of the things the land bank does, they take a piece of pipe or a plastic pipe, put it in the ground, that they can put a board in or something. It's just, I'm sure if somebody's really wants to get up there. And also I noticed the parking area up at Founders Burial Ground, as well as over at Historic Colored Cemetery on the side where you can drive down on New Lane. That parking area is pretty tight. Even with my car, I need to do a 3 or 4 point turn to just turn it around. So I'm not sure where the property bound is to see where the cemetery ends, but I'm sure that's all town property there, and possibly soon to be land bank property. So those are two other things that we'll want to consider: enlarging the parking areas in both those two areas, and seeing what we can do about the erosion that's happening at the entrance to the historic colored. Yes, Fran?
Oh, I was thinking about people driving onto the cemetery itself. Perhaps this is another place for a sign just at the parking area, a sign saying, please do not drive onto the cemetery. rather than some kind of temporary barrier.
Yeah, right. The thing with signs is that anybody who is going to do that sort of thing is going to ignore the signs. Yeah. So anyway, we'll need to think about that. I check that cemetery every couple of weeks anyway, and if I do notice any additional traffic up there, we'll move that ahead on the list.
Alan, this is Lee. I see that Rob's still on the call. Since it's DPW that needs to get up there to mow, maybe the DPW has got suggestions for how to install some kind of a rapidly removable but lockable barrier. There are ways to do it. For example, you could sink an 8-inch pipe and then drop a 6-inch pipe with a hasp on it. Just little ideas about how to do it, but I would defer to DPW in case they may already have something in their storage yard.
True.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would say simply that we will certainly take a look at grading the access road, and we could take a look at the parking area. Frankly, I don't know how frequently that area is visited. To talk about, I have not once seen anyone in the parking area, not once.
Yeah.
So I think expanding it is probably not something that's going to happen anytime soon. Signage wise and blocking, again, it's something we could take a look at. It's nothing that's ever been there that I'm aware of. And maybe there's a track up there and we could take a look at that if there's any damage that's been done. But I'm not seeing a need. Anything we put out there is something that we need to maintain, from that point forward. And it's just, as you can see, with the limited staff and the short staff that we do have, finding the time to attend to the cemeteries has been challenge enough.
So I've got a quick question for Alan. The people who would drive down that road used to be members of the Anglers Club. Is that land still Anglers Club, or has it been swapped?
No, it's the land bank purchased it from the Anglers Club. So that's
Okay,
now
so it's less likely that fishermen will be going down there.
Yes, I'm sure it wasn't fishermen that were going up into the cemetery. I based that on the tracks and the small accumulation of trash that was left when, anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, all right. No, I agree. I'm up there fairly often. I think I've only seen 1 or 2 people up there. But nonetheless, I know there are a lot of dog walkers up there because there are piles of dog poop that are.
I removed a wreath that had been left up there.
The who?
I removed a wreath.
Oh, yeah.
And last year, someone kept putting American flags up there, if you recall, and we kept removing them because this is pre-revolutionary.
Yeah, I don't think we have any veterans up there, although there might have been some veterans. No, wait a minute. They were all here before. That's interesting. I never noticed any American flags up there. I do take down the ones that get tattered in the cemeteries when I'm in there, and it's usually a couple of months after Memorial Day, but and I do remove those. By the way, I also when I do check the cemeteries, I do remove things like any trash that blows into it. And occasionally people will leave plastic flowers, and I'll usually leave them there for a month or 2 and then quietly remove them.
right now there's at least one and I think two very ugly old Christmas wreaths in New North, which I didn't pick up because I was on foot. And I was there yesterday and one of them was still sort of front and center. But if I go by and I have a vehicle, I'll take them away.
All right. Yeah. Well, I usually do that too. I usually pick up whatever, if there's any trash around. So, okay, I believe, let me just check here. Okay, mentioned biocomic, founder's paragraph. Okay, I declare we're at the end of our agenda. Is there anything else to come before the commission? Scotty?
Yes, I have a family who is requesting information on how to do an interment in Pulpis Cemetery. And many meetings ago, we'd had our discussion on that process. And it all gets funneled through the office. So, and now Isabel,
Right.
you have the ball. So I think she sent an email, but she hasn't heard anything.
Oh,
But
this
is that still how we're doing it?
this, yeah, you're
Okay.
talking about Rhoda?
No, this is La Paglia. Are you familiar with that name? Alexandra?
No, I don't. I don't think I got an email from that person because I am up to date with all the interments. And
Okay.
so if you want to give me her information, I can reach out to her, or you can have her try to reach up again, because
Okay, I
I
will.
have not gotten anything from her.
Okay, no problem.
I think-
And
Thank
I
you.
have your email.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And your email is iJordan, right? At
Yes.
Nantucket Gov, right? Because she
Yep.
said she emailed Julie Jordan, but that's a whole
Oh, no.
other person.
Yep.
So
No, not me.
I think it's just confusion.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
I'll give her
it's
the
not-
right
it's not
detail.
Paul, it's
Great,
his
thank you.
daughter.
What's that, Fran?
Oh, you're saying it's a woman who's inquiring. I mistook it. I thought it was Paul who was asking, but you
No,
said,
no.
the woman.
Oh, actually, it's Paul's family, though. Yes, Fran.
yeah.
Right,
okay.
it's,
Yeah,
I think it's their daughter.
it's Paul's daughter. Yeah,
Yeah, Paul's daughter. And
All
she
good.
works,
yeah. That's all I had.
okay.
Thank you.
We
Thank you,
have-
Isabel.
Two other internments coming up there. Rhoda Weinman on Memorial Day, Monday, whatever that Monday is.
The 31st.
Yeah, 31st. She's going to be doing her husband's ashes. And then we have another one from Jane Kenyon. She's the one, she has two lots, and she has the ashes. I think it's her husband, and she also had some other ashes as well that she wanted to put in there with her.
I think there's pets involved, isn't there?
Yeah, I think
Yes,
there
I
were.
believe so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
But I think I dealt with her all last year, Al.
Yeah, we did make it clear that if she wanted to add the ashes of her dogs, she could do that, but we didn't want the names of the dogs on the stone.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not the kind of thing we want to encourage. So, so those are coming up, and then the La Paglia one is I wasn't aware of. So, do you know, Isabel, when they're planning to do that one?
No,
Which one was it?
The
I-
La Paglia?
I don't believe that they've reached out to make arrangements.
Oh, they
yet.
haven't. Oh, okay.
No, not yet. I think they had the wrong information.
Gotcha.
So once
Yeah.
they email, I'll definitely get that arranged.
Good. Okay. Is there anything else to come before the commission this afternoon? Seeing none, I declare we're at the end of our agenda and the meeting is adjourned. So thank you all very much for coming. Go out and enjoy this beautiful afternoon. I think I'm going to go out for a walk, maybe walk down to the beach and see what's going on out there. So again, thank you, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
see you.
you. I'll
Thank
try and get
you.
minutes out in by the weekend.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank
Excellent.
you, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.